Trump coming into power on January 20, 2025, he may make some changes to the OPT and STEM extension. We're going to discuss what are the possible things that can happen, how people can prepare if they are on a student visa, contemplating on student visa, contemplating on those people on OPT, those people on STEM extension. Everybody knows that OPT, optional practical training, is given after they complete their degree, and they will be given a permit of 1 year to work in United States in the respective field in which they got the degree in. And if their degree is in STEM field, then they could extend that OPT for a period of 2 years. In that 2 years, they should work in the respective field in which they got the graduation in. And the new employer must be e-verified company, and they should submit a form called I-983 form to employ this. There are some rules and regulations that bound this OPT and STEM extension. You can be unemployed for a period of 90 days in the OPT and STEM extension. Combinedly can have 150 days of unemployment. These are the general rules of OPT and STEM extension. Emily, does the OPT, is this passed by the law, by the Parliament, which is Congress, or is it by the regulations?
The OPT and STEM OPT are regulatory. There's nothing specific in the statute that talks about work authorization for F1 students. The statute refers to students coming into the U.S. for a full course of study in compliance with the F1 regulations. So I do think that, especially given the advisors Trump is putting into power, that we could see restrictions on OPT, possible elimination of STEM OPT. That's something that Stephen Miller actually tried to do before. So he used to be helping draft legislation back in 2015. One of the bills that was drafted involving Jeff Sessions and Ted Cruz actually meant to eliminate OPT and prohibit students from working after graduation. So I think that with Stephen Miller being in power here, we can expect to see potential to eliminate STEM OPT extension through regulation and possibly restrict OPT even further.
The OPT doesn't look to be in immediate danger right now. STEM extension looks to be in danger. However, Emily, how much time does it take because STEM extension is through regulatory, it's not an executive order, it's not a USCIS decision. It went through the Administrative Processing Act and through which the regulations were being issued. If the Trump administration wants to take the STEM extension out, how long at a minimum they will take it? And what do you expect Stephen Miller moving very fast on it?
Yeah, it does have to go through the regulatory process. So that can take years to get through. I would say a minimum of 1 year to make it through that whole process. They first have to publish a notice of the regulation, give people the opportunity to comment. Usually that's a 60-day period. And then they actually have to review all of the comments that they received and decide what the final regulation should be, why they are listening to some comments or why they decided not to follow other comments, and then issue the final regulation, which will then take place usually 60 days in the future. So all of that is likely to take at least a year to get through, could be multiple years before they actually get through it.
So it's not going to be immediate action on the STEM extension, Emily?
Correct.
And for those people who are planning to study in United States, wanting to plan into coming to United States, if they're contemplating to have a STEM extension to be there, you may want to rethink about it, though. And for those people who are on OPT and STEM extension, if you, the number one advice we've been given even before Trump administration was, whenever you get an opportunity, file for H-1B and move on to H-1B. Don't try to save money on taxes, because as we know that OPT and STEM extension, they're not subject to the Social Security tax. Social Security, people try to save the taxes Our advice is always to get on the H-1B, not to stay on OPT and STEM extension. Emily, you said that they may do some restrictions. What did we see last time? They tried to restrict when they were in an OPT and a STEM extension.
Yeah, they definitely tried to put restrictions on certain fields, particularly focused on Chinese students. And we also saw an attempt to create this unlawful presence policy memo specifically for F1 students that would have basically caused many students to start accruing unlawful presence when they normally would not have during their F1 stay. That memo never did move forward, but we could see it implemented again and actually make it all the way through the process going forward.
Emily, would they make the law applicable retroactively or only going forward, Emily? That means, let's say, for example, they will pass a regulation. Let's say the regulations are all implemented in December of 2025. And I got a STEM extension already approved from November of 2025 all the way to November of 2027. Do they go retroactively or going forward, though? That means
Yeah, generally they will not go retroactive.
Okay.
So if you already have your OPT or STEM extension in place when a new regulation comes in eliminating it, it's not going to rescind your active, already approved OPT or STEM OPT. Most likely it would just be, well, they're not going to accept those applications going forward, but they generally can't go backwards and eliminate those that have already been approved.
Emily, if somebody is on STEM OPT or OPT or STEM OPT, or either it's there or not, they completed their graduation, they moved on to H4. Would they still be eligible for the H-1B in the master's quota, Emily?
Yes. So
Doesn't
you
it
don't
require
have
that
to
the
be.
person must be in the OPT or STEM extension?
No, you don't have to be only in F1 status in order to qualify for the master's cap for H-1B. It's based on your education that you received, not your immigration status.
What if I leave, I go stay, because, Trump administration not doing that good, I stay in India. And then later on, if you want to apply the H-1B, can the company apply in master's quota, or since I'm in India, they can only apply in bachelor's quota?
So they can do the master's quota based on the education that you received, even if you are outside the country or no longer on F1 or OPT or STEM.
If the Trump administration tries to take off the STEM extension or want to put any restrictions on the OPT, can we, is there any chance we can go to the courts and see if we can stop it?
Yeah, so first, if they propose a regulation, it will have a notice and comment period where we will be able to, anyone from the public can issue their comments for or against the changes that are being proposed. And if there are enough public comments that are in support of keeping the regulation as is, they may not be able to proceed with it. But if they do proceed with it anyways and try to eliminate it, issuing a final regulation, that's where we can go to the courts to try to argue that they did not follow the regulatory process correctly, or that the changes that they're making are not in line with the statute. We'll have to wait for the courts to potentially issue an injunction to stop them from eliminating it while they work it out in court and see what kind of decision a judge would make on that. Even if a decision is made by a judge, there's likely to be appeals. It could be a years-long process. People may not remember, but the STEM OPT actually was eliminated by a court before due to litigation. So when the STEM OPT first came about, it went through kind of a fast track regulatory process where it was issued as an interim final rule. It did not go through the normal notice and comment process. And because of that, a court eventually vacated the STEM OPT rule and told Department of Homeland Security to go back to the drawing board and reissue the regulations. The good thing was, while that was happening, they delayed eliminating the STEM OPT, so those that already had it could continue and people could keep applying for the STEM OPT while the new regulatory process was underway. And that's how we ended up with a 24-month extension instead of the 17-month STEM OPT. And that's also how we ended up with the I-983 training plan requirement. So there's definitely precedent for courts making changes to the OPT program based on how the regulatory process was followed or not followed.
Emily, could they introduce some restrictions on the OPT and STEM extensions?
Definitely. And I do think that they will do that. I mean, they even tried to do that by changing their website before, by updating how they were interpreting the employer-employee relationship when it came to the STEM extension and filling out the 983. They tried to eliminate consulting companies from hiring STEM extension holders. Through just a simple website change. We definitely got that taken down off their website since it was a policy change that did not go through the proper process of changing their policy. But I would definitely expect to see that. There might be some wage requirements. There might be site visit requirements. There's many things that they can do to try to restrict or limit who can get the OPT and the STEM extension.
I recall that last time that third-party placement, there was the DSOs were not even issuing the endorsing the 983 at that point of time.
Mm-hmm.
We had to argue with them, saying that hey, you are allowed to, and it took a while. And in that process of time, a lot of people did. Some people were unable to get the STEM extension at that point of time because the DSOs, the designated student officials, did not endorse the 983, which is required for them to file a I-765, which is an EAD at that point of time, Emily. But what you're telling at that point of time is that they didn't went through the process. What you're telling right now is that if they do go through the process, then we may have a difficulty in people who are in STEM extension working in third-party placement. So for those people who have options of working directly with the company as compared to a consulting company, we would strongly recommend that if you position yourself in the OPT, that you're directly working for a company instead of instead of working indirectly. You may be at a better position compared to the other people of retaining the STEM extension, if they would like to restrict anything. Anything else, Emily?
Oh, I think we've covered everything, and we will keep you updated through our weekly Tuesday live. We'll answer questions you have and always provide you with the latest information of changes and things that you need to be aware of so that you can plan accordingly.
Thank you very much for tuning in.